I care for the NHS, do you? Yes. Wonderful. I care for the NHS, do you? Yes. Now let's try and get some of these people who are walking past to try and stop. We're trying to save the NHS, so please give us a couple of minutes of your time, please. So, now without further ado, I'm going to introduce someone who needs no introduction. Anna Soubry.
Thank you very much indeed. I just want to say a couple of things. As you've heard, the importance of our NHS, I think, is not lost on anybody here this afternoon. The reason why Brexit is such a huge threat to our NHS is twofold. As Joe was telling you, and as you know yourself, we rely enormously in every field of the amazing work that our NHS and indeed our social care system does. We rely on EU workers. We rely on a lot of immigrant workers, and I'm proud of immigration in our country, which has actually been to the huge benefit of our country in so many ways. But that free movement that we get as a member of the EU means that we have outstanding healthcare workers like Joe. And as I say, it goes from the highest consultant right the way through all the NHS to those amazing people who work so hard, especially people like cleaners, all the way. Everything that they do relies on those brilliant people, and it relies on the free movement that has been so beneficial for our country. And the second reason why making sure that our country remains in the European Union is so important is that whatever way you do Brexit, there is no good Brexit deal that is good for our economy. And if we don't have a sound economy, we don't have the money to spend on our great public services like the NHS. And it's not just me who says this, it's the government's own assessments that show that there is no form of Brexit that won't harm our economy and the prospects of our children and our grandchildren. Now, I know that all of you standing here, you understand this. You realise the huge benefits. You know that the best deal with the EU is the current deal that we have with the EU. But obviously we also know that we had a referendum, and it was a dreadful campaign, wasn't it? But we've got to move on, and we know where we are now, and we are now in the most appalling national constitutional crisis that you could ever have imagined. And some of us are old enough to say that we never thought we would see a crisis like this in our lifetime, and that is exactly where we are. The most important decision our country's made since the Second World War, and this terrible crisis. So how are we going to get out of it? At the moment, as you know, there's a complete impasse in Parliament. And some people say, well, we'll have a general election, we'll get a new Parliament. But as you know, it won't solve anything because the parties themselves are divided. So it's not going to solve the problem. So how are we going to get out of it? Well, it looks like Boris, lovely Boris Johnson, is beginning finally to realise that the answer might be going back to the people. Now, as you know, there's many people here who came to that conclusion a long time ago and called for that people's vote. Now we know what Brexit looks like. Let's put it back to the British people. That's where it began. And let's sort this out once and for all, because we cannot go on like this. As a country, we can't go on like this. We've got to bring all our people back together again. We've got to stop this terrible divide. It's divided communities, it's divided families, it's even divided friends. So we've got to bring people back together and heal. And I make it very, very clear. If we go back to the British people, as I think we must do with that people's vote, and if they vote for Mrs May's deal, even though it wasn't really a deal, but if they vote for it, or something that Boris thinks he's going to concoct, you know, some unicorn he might find trapped somewhere, if the British people say, well, now we know what Brexit looks like, and this is it, and we want it again, and the majority vote for it, that's it. It will be done. But if they say, as I believe increasingly they are saying, Brexit's bad for our country, and we've made a mistake. And especially those young people who didn't have a vote in 2016, and they're the ones who will bear the brunt of Brexit. But if they say the best deal is the current deal, then that's also it, and we remain in the European Union. And I think that's where our country's destination is. So it's fantastic to see you all here, and it's great that we all agree. But now we've got to take this out and talk to people and persuade them, because a lot of people don't agree with us, though I think that's shifting, and we've got to persuade them. So you see, Boris is getting it. Take it back to the British people. Spot on, Boris. Not a general election, but a people's vote. That confirmatory referendum. This is the deal. Put it to the people. Now we know all about Brexit and what it means. Let the people decide. So join us. We're out almost every Saturday. We usually go over by the Left Lion and we talk to people, and slowly but surely we are persuading them that this brilliant country of ours has made a seriously bad mistake. And what I'm finding, and Susan and Nick and all the rest of us, is especially older people are realising it's not about them. It's about the future of their children and children, and that future is best served in the EU. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Anna. Before we just go on, I want to thank the Speakers Trust for providing this platform. Nottingham has a long tradition of independent voices. Robin Hood, D.H. Lawrence, the Luddite, Ed Luddite, believe it or not, came from Nottingham. And we have no greater independent voice than Anna Soubry. So thank you very much, Anna. It's great.